Well, hello everybody. Very happy to be here. Thanks for the introduction there. So my name's Ronan Kelly. I'm here to talk to you about how Pfizer leverages XR in their manufacturing plants. So I'm just going to start off with a bit of context on the company, but before that, I'll just introduce George and Nick. So Pfizer is the premier biopharmaceutical company, and our mission is breakthroughs that change patients' lives. Here's some numbers on our company from 2021. We have 39 manufacturing plants, over 80,000 colleagues, and 9 products that make over $1 billion in sales. But we're here to talk about XR and how we leverage it in Pfizer. So I lead a team that's part of the digital organization in Pfizer. And within this team, we have 6 main work streams. Today, we're going to talk about our manufacturing upskilling work stream, which Nick leads as a product owner, and it focuses on virtual reality and 3D tools. And also, we're going to talk about our manufacturing AR work stream, which Georgios leads for us. So I'm here to set the scene a wee bit. And to do that, we're going to talk about the pandemic. And with that, Pfizer really had a big part to play in it. And we were scaling up at a really fast pace, lightspeed as we call it. And when we were doing this, we had a lot of operators coming into our workforce, thousands of operators coming into our workforce, and we were getting it difficult to get them upskilled and trained because their production lines was running 24/7. So that was one of the key challenges we looked to identify to make a solution for. Along with this, we had very complex procedures. And these complex procedures were for new and innovative tasks, and it was, challenging for people to understand and to get a real grasp of what these tasks and how they would go about handling these tasks. And we're going to talk about a solution for AR that we built for that. So now I'll just hand it over to our 2 rock stars who made these solutions and these things happen. So I'll hand it over to Nick to start off.
Thank you, Ronan. Everyone, my name is Nicholas Hockley, and I am the solution manager for a portfolio of 3D solutions at Pfizer with a focus on virtual reality. And during the pandemic, the way we approached this, as Ronan was saying, that there was operators that were coming into our workforce, and there was a huge demand to get them upskilled on actually how to maintain, set up, and run these manufacturing lines. And what we did was we actually created 3D replicas of these vaccine filling lines, and we built a series and a suite of virtual reality training applications based on a 1-to-1 replica of these lines. And what we saw was about a 40% reduction in training time in total. So we're actually creating the time, and we're creating the virtual space to give people the opportunity to get trained in these environments. And these operating procedures, these SOPs, are highly complex. We're getting a Word document that's 100+ pages long, and we're converting and turning that into a virtual experience that people can learn and get trained experientially on. So it was a big task, and we saw amazing results immediately, and testimonials and a bunch of feedback coming from our sites immediately that this was helping them and improving their overall consistency and giving them an opportunity to get unlimited repetitions on these procedures that would sometimes take them 4, 5, 6 repetitions just to get familiar with how to perform these types of operations on the line. Along with that, we also approached VR training from a behavioral perspective and from a technique perspective. So in these environments, they're aseptic environments, and you're monitored on how fast you actually can move and operate within these environments. So we actually were using haptic and hand speed tracking to be able to track the speed at which they're moving in these environments, and also teaching them proper aseptic technique. And just in general, too, taking you a little far back before the pandemic, we started exploring in a proof of concept phase in about 2018 of really where XR and VR was going to fit into the overall grand scheme of things for the enterprise, and we landed on VR training. And in 2020, we actually brought in an in-house virtual reality training and development team that I now manage through our team, and we're already building custom 3D environments that we're able to actually deploy and build these trainings around, and we're also starting to take our first steps into the metaverse space as well. If we go to the next slide, we'll be able to see a video of some of the experiences that our team has all built in-house at Pfizer so far. We're going to be starting with some custom 3D spaces where we're actually building metaverse spaces for our both internal and external business partners to come collaborate with Pfizer's partners and colleagues to actually discuss business and use it for a variety of use cases, as you can see here. So this is a completely custom in-house solution built by our design team that we are collaborating across a lot of different business users at Pfizer right now. This is an example of the 3D assets and animations our in-house development team is creating, and it's the type of tools that people are being trained on these lines. This is an example of what one of the virtual reality trainings looks like once those assets are actually taken and then imported into Unity and turned into a virtual training experience. This is an example of a group training where there's multiple users from all around the world in an environment with a GMP qualified trainer that can actually give them an overview on what actually happens on a line virtually. This is some of the behavioral and technique training where we're actually tracking the hand speed. As you can see, the hand's turning red, and then they're getting vibration in their controllers indicating that they're exceeding the speed they should be moving. This is a technique training where we're actually showing people how they should insert their hands at a certain angle when they're using a RABS machine or a type of environment where you need to insert your hands at a certain technique or speed. And this is an example of a virtual twin, which is the starting point for a lot of our development, where we actually take a 3D scan of an environment, which our designers and developers then use to optimize and create an interactive virtual environment with. And if we go one more, this is our overall architecture right now. I won't spend too much time on this because it can get a bit technical, but I will note that we partner where it makes sense in terms of software and technologies. And really, Unity's at the core of what we do. The Unity is what we're taking 3D models, scans. We're using Maya, Blender, Substance Painter to create the interactive objects, the animations, the environments. They're going into Unity, and Unity's actually making it and turning it into an experiential training experience. And then from there, there's a series of different version control and MDM solutions we're using to then deploy to our network so they can actually experience it on the site. That's it for me. Thank you so much, and hope if there's any other questions, let me know.
Thanks, Nick.
Passing it off to George.
Thank you, Nick. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here and part of this amazing community. My name is Chantziaras, and I'm part of the Smart Factory Technology team. And currently, I'm the solution owner for our augmented reality workstream. So I lead a team of developers and designers that create AR solutions for our manufacturing shop floors. Our end goal here is to improve the productivity and the efficiency of our end users, as well as upskill our workforce through immersive AR content. About a year ago, during the height of the pandemic, as Pfizer was trying to bring the vaccine to the world at light speed, we saw that there were some manual processes that we could optimize. As we were scaling up the production, and as you know, our vaccines need to be stored in a monitored way in large warehouse areas, there was some manual tasks involved that we needed to overcome. Those areas are also known as freezer farms, and they consist of over 2,000 freezers. So we needed a way to guide our operators in the most efficient way to their destinations, to find the freezer available for a vaccine to be filled in. We developed an AR solution, we name it the AR Freezer Farm, that runs on mobile devices that can provide pinpoint guidance through AR-guided navigation path to those specific destinations. This way, our operators can reach the freezers in the quickest ways possible, so we can produce a lot more product, bring a lot more vaccines to the people. Upon reaching a destination, we can also overlay real-time data regarding the status of the freezers, any alarms, any batch information. So we bring all the information that an operator needs in a single pane of glass so they can make their efficient-driven database decisions. We also introduced AR-guided workflows. So when they are reaching a destination and they want to perform some tasks, they can get guided by AR step-by-step instructions directly overlaid on top of the equipment. So this is also a way to upskill our new hires. As we're constantly expanding, we're getting new onboardings, so there was the need to optimize that process as well and improve our trainings. We also saw that during the pandemic, there was difficulty connecting our workforce. So as you know, trips were restricted, the site visits and site access was monitored. So we need a way to connect our workforce in a more optimal way. So we introduced our remote collaboration tools, leveraging augmented reality, so we can connect our SMEs with our frontline operators and quickly troubleshoot our issues. So by implementing this portfolio of solutions, we were able to increase our overall productivity, save a lot of time for equipment setup and calibration, and ultimately this translates to massive cost savings for Pfizer. So now I want to give you a quick glimpse of how our solutions look in action, and I want to start off with AR Freezer Farm. So this is our application running on an iPad that, as you can see, is lying on a stand on top of a cart. So when an operator walks in the farm, they can quickly select the closest freezer available to them, and they can navigate intuitively to it. We can also add checklist forms so we can overcome any paper-based instructions directly by this 3D content. And as you can see, we also introduced AR-guided workflows so operators can quickly perform their tasks. And now I want to talk about our vision for the future. So we see AR as an enabler. We want to enable the connected worker of the future. Imagine walking in the shop floor wearing a pair of glasses and just instantly authenticating yourself via biometric methods and get all the information you need in a single view. So an operator can go through his tasks, his priorities, his schedule, and they can also get personalized information regarding how to tackle an issue. They can select their priorities, and then they can guide it through immersive content on how to execute their tasks. And all this should be done in a validated way. And as you can see, the most important part is the localized information. So this is what we're trying building up on. And during the pandemic, all this knowledge that we obtained will allow us to enable our future workforce. So now I want to talk a little bit more on how we actually made all this happen. Here you can see a high-level architecture of our AR pipeline. In the center, similar to virtual reality, we have the Unity 3D game engine. So this is a powerful tool that allows us to quickly prototype, develop, and deploy our solutions. Location is a key aspect in a robust AR system. So as you can see, we leverage all the latest technologies. We leverage image targets, QR codes, 3D scans with area targets, and depending on the use case, we can select what is the best option. Data is really important in AR. We want to use AR as a way to bring the data to our people on the shop floor. So as you can see, we integrate with most of our enterprise databases, and we can combine that with localization and bring that into a single pane of glass for our end users. We worked in the Agile Scale framework, so we can incrementally provide value to our solutions. We are in close discussions with our stakeholders, and we try to make applications that have a look and feel tailored to the exact need of our manufacturing sites. Regarding the deployment of our solutions, we need to have a monitored way that can work in an enterprise level. We want to manage our devices, and we can directly push our applications on those. So we leverage our internal Pfizer App Store, as well as side-loading applications that we can quickly push new patches of our solutions and features to our end users. And finally, on the hardware side, so we still see that in the AR space, there is room for improvement, mainly on the wearables. So we don't want to enforce a solution for our users. We see that sometimes, like in Freezer Farm, a tablet makes more sense to use, and especially when it is lying on a cart, the operators can have their hands free. They can perform their actions a lot more easily. But we always try to scope out the latest and greatest in the market, so we're also deploying our solutions on mixed reality smart glasses, AR smart glasses, and assisted reality smart glasses. So again, depending on the use case, we opt for the best device that can provide the best value to our end users. So with this, I want to give it back to Ronan and talk about our vision for the future in XR. Thanks, everyone.
Yes, I'm glad George gets a round of applause as well there. I'm super proud and privileged to work with two people like this here that have the vision to be able to come up with these type of solutions for these real business problems that we have. We wanted to finish up on where VR and AR is going in the future for Pfizer, but I wanted to, just before we go into that, the reason why we're sharing this and the reason why we're here today is to let people know the lessons learned, let people know there is light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to these challenging sort of funding conversations and areas where it's difficult to get the buy-in and the idea that AR and VR really does add value to these scenarios, and we're in a lucky position to be able to have supportive leadership to enable us to do that. So I just want to sort of raise that point. So where are we going with VR in the future? All of our physical and manual trainings, we see it as a core solution. Being able to take in multiplayer experiences, metaverse type experiences inside of our virtual reality training really is where it's going to go. We have a lot of trainee experiences and heavily regulated environments, and being able to have that done where people are based in different locations in the world and not having to rely on physical equipment really is a massive value for us, so we're really going to scale up on that. Our virtual twin capability is going to grow more and more. It's being used by engineers for service walkdowns and so on. But it also is an underlying infrastructure and foundation for us to be able to use for our augmented reality workstream as well, which is a double win for us. Along with this, what we're calling our XR services inside of Pfizer, it's been able to push out our applications, keep control of our headsets, and ensure their end users are getting the best possible service. So we need to focus on that, because if that's not successful, our end users are going to complain, and it's not an ideal scenario. So it's a lot of support going towards that. And then finally, if it goes to the next one, augmented reality. So as George showed you the videos and the snippets of what we're doing, we really do believe that AR is where manufacturing is going. The value that it brings is massive, and we're only at the very start of this journey. This idea of the connected worker, having a personalized experience, and when a user goes in for their data or given their tasks, they don't have to log into multiple disparate systems. There's not multiple disparate silos of data, and being able to produce that in a single user interface that's on an iPad or on wearables is the future, and we're definitely going to be following that and working with partners where it makes sense and trying to innovate internally as well. Along with that, we do envisage ensuring that we can use this in our GMP regulated environment as well, which is no easy task, as if any of you is aware of that, but being able to use this is where we get the most value, being able to use it in these spaces. So I'd like to leave it there, and hopefully you find it interesting, and looking forward to any questions. Thank you.
Okay, it seems we have different questions on stage.
I have a question about the AR guide flows. So you said you create a new application that you introduce to the engineers to use in the workflow. But I can assume that during the pandemic, it was quite a high-pressure environment, and you're also introducing a new piece of hardware with complex interactions, etc. So how did you manage introducing the HoloLens especially, or just headsets in general, while the engineers are probably focused on so many other things at the same time? And how did they react to that?
That's a good question. So as I mentioned, we don't want to enforce augmented reality. We still see that this is an emerging technology, and we only want to introduce it where it makes sense. So for the air freezer farm solution, as you saw, we opted to go for tablets. It makes sense to use them in an environment like this. But for more static environments where an operator is just in front of a machine and they want to be trained on a process, then for those quick training sessions, it makes sense to use HoloLens or any other smart glass device. So again, it depends on the use case. If it's something static, then it makes sense to use a wearable. But if you are on the shop floor for longer periods of time, you don't need to have that extra burden on your head. It's better to use just a simple tablet, and you can get really big value out of it still with their guidance and their overlays. But again, it depends on the solution, on the use case.
Yeah, I think I'd add to that as well. I think people get focused in on the hardware itself, as in the wearable smart glasses, HoloLens, and so on. That is augmented reality. For us, it's the software. It adds so much value just being leveraged out of an iPad. The location-based context and the ability to have this multi-user interface in one peripheral view Yes, it'd be great if it was in a wearable, and we hope someday, that it gets mature enough that we can start using wearables in an enterprise way. But for now, we're getting a lot of value just using the software augmented reality on an iPad.
Hi. I've heard a lot of people talk about building up the digital twins of existing workspaces. So I'd like to hear about that workflow, specifically from a schedule and resources perspective. What that takes up to build up a digital twin of an existing or pre-existing workspace.
Yeah, I could probably take that one. So really, we got a big push to do that with the pandemic when access to our manufacturing sites was pretty much cut off, and there was a lot of demand to still see and get access to these environments. And the strategy that we took was actually training the colleagues and the site staff that still could go there on how to actually operate and take these 3D scans. So we actually created a self-service model that we deployed out throughout the entire network on how to take 3D scans using the technology that we were working with at the time. So from a time and resourcing perspective, it's very intuitive how to actually take these scans and create these models. Most people could do it. It just needs an iPad and about an hour's worth of training to get the overview on how to do so. And then from there, it's just our team supporting and guiding if there's any technical or support questions that comes up. But the self-service model seems to have has worked for us.
Okay, we have time for one more question over there. It's a good exercise to work around.
Thanks. Thanks for these great insights into how you're using AR and VR for manufacturing. So now Pfizer is a pretty big company. We have a lot of manpower to implement these kind of technologies. What would your recommendation be for SMEs if they want to go that route? Is it possible to outsource it completely, or do you need this manpower to really implement such a technology in a company?
I might take that one. So that's really part of my role. We started off pretty small team inside of the Pfizer digital organization, and we went after pilots of small scale, but many of them, and it wasn't really very successful, to be honest. We've now shifted to focusing on only high ROI use cases. So look at where you feel that there is the biggest pain point, and whether it's AR or VR that's going to add you the value, put all your chips into that. Don't try and spread them around too often. And benchmark as much as possible before the use case starts. What is the pain point? What is the value I hope to achieve from this? And after you go through your various stage gates of creating that project, measure yourself against it. I think that's the only way, because to be honest, we see ourselves as a startup inside of Pfizer. We started with 2 or 3 people. We're now nearly up over 100, including our contractors. So we're a sort of a progressing team, and the only reason I feel that we've been successful, apart from our great product owners and people on the team, is our focus on our high value ROI use cases. So that's hopefully will help guide SMEs. I think would try and put all their chips in one basket rather than trying to spread thin.
One more question. Yes. Very last one, I promise.
Thank you very much for this presentation. I'd like to ask you mentioned that there was more than 100 pages for your technical documentation, and you had to build the VR or AR applications from that. How did you do this? Did you code the process through Unity, or what tools did you use and how you would scale in the future?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think a lot comes down to the user experience journey and the storyboard and sitting down with the SMEs and the site training leads that know this process very intimately. And there's probably a 2-3 week long period where we're meeting with them each week and building out in 2D what the experience is going to look like from a scene-by-scene perspective. And that guides the entire project. From a 3D perspective, from the assets you have to build, from the environment, from the programming on the virtual reality side. So really taking a lot of time to sit with that document, understand it in detail, and then meet with the SME to build out what that vision of what the experience would look like is really crucial. So good user experience designers.
Yeah, put the investment in early on. Yeah. Like the process Nick and the team have in place of going from an SOP into 2D wireframes and storyboards is a lot of the effort, and it's probably putting more investment there than later on in the production process of the applications is critical. So getting the buy-in from the end user at that early stage is very important as well, because sometimes they only get interested when they're starting to see the flashy stuff. But they need to be interested at the start, and you need to have their feedback at the start. And if it's not there, just pull the plug and wait until it is there, because you're not going to be as successful as you could be if you didn't do that.
Okay, thank you. Just have another round of applause for these three speakers.